Hello, I'm Karen Spilsbury, Executive Director of the Norwalk Chamber of Commerce. The Norwalk Chamber of Commerce was founded in 1923, and it's our mission to promote and maintain a profitable business environment that produces a quality lifestyle in Norwalk, California. I would like to introduce one of the presenters for today's webinar, Brian Aneema. Brian is the president and co-founder of Strategic Systems Group, a Los Angeles-based information technology consulting firm. He is active in the Southern California chapter of the International Association of Microsoft Channel Partners and the Microsoft Community Connections Program. Brian has presented on a number of technology topics for the South Bay Chambers of Commerce and the Orange County chapter of SCORE. Brian, welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for that introduction.
You're welcome.
I wanted to quote John F. Kennedy. At some point, he's quoted as saying, "Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other." So today, let's see what we can learn about Microsoft Excel. My name is Brian Aneema. My company is Strategic Systems Group. As Karen mentioned, we're a Los Angeles-based IT consulting firm and experts in enterprise resource planning. I want to introduce our two other co-presenters. First of all, Manish Bardia.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Manish. Good morning, everyone. Yes, so my name is Manish. I'm with AdaptTech, and as AdaptTech, what we do is bring the technology to the small and medium-sized businesses so they can use the power of the cloud or latest technology to improve business productivity. Thank you for allowing me to present this session.
And also Mr. Eddie Bader.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. I'm Eddie Bader, and my company is Company Built, and we focus on technology solutions for business. We provide security services, infrastructure, networking, and things like that for companies that either don't have an IT staff or who need to augment their current staff for projects or just any technical assistance. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to show you some things about Excel today.
Great, thank you. Okay, so today's topic, Office 365, Learning Excel Basics. We'll focus on Excel, and one of the things that we may have to do is to kind of caveat our presentation that many of the things that we're going to show today are going to be inherent or in Excel in 2016. Many things are in the previous versions as well, but sometimes some of these things will only be in Excel 2016 or in Office 365, which is the cloud aspect of the product. I'm going to switch now to Mr. Eddie Bader, who will go through some aspects of Excel that relate to navigation.
Thank you again, Brian. So what I'm going to talk about today is what is a workbook. Workbooks are the what we produce in Excel. We'll go over the start screen and templates, opening and saving, file naming conventions, and then using the ribbon. What I'd like to do is just show you a few slides on what those things are, and then actually do a demonstration of it. So let's get started. The first is a workbook is, think of it maybe as a binder with as the book, and then each sheet as a worksheet. Within those sheets, you can do all your calculations. You can have different types of information. You can do financial statements. You can do lists. You can actually create invoices that link to other sheets in the same workbook, but that workbook is dedicated to perhaps a single purpose. So kind of think of it that way. Let me get to the next slide here. And this is the start screen. So when you first open up Excel 2016, you're going to get to this start screen. On the left-hand side, and we'll show this more a little bit later, you're going to see this recent section. So any workbooks that you've been working on recently are going to show up on that side. And that's convenient if you work with the same type of worksheets all the time or workbooks. So the ones that you use most frequently will be on there. You can also pin them so that the ones that are pinned will stay at the top. So let's say you're an accountant and there's a particular workbook you use like every day. You can pin that, and I'll show you how to do that. And that way it'll stay at the top of that list. To the right, you'll see a section. There is a new workbook, take a tour, and then you see all these other sheets that look like they're already completed. What's nice about this is that within Excel 2016, you can actually find templates that you may want to use. So you can see some cash flow, calendars, personal budgets. If you go to the top of the screen, you can actually search for particular templates, and it'll go out and it'll search the database and it'll bring you back results. So if there's something that you want to get started on right away and you don't want to have to go through take the time to actually build it out, you can actually look for a template, and there's usually something that you can either meet your needs exactly, or it's 80% of what you need and you only have to manage like 20% of that. On the next screen, this is the ribbon. And with the ribbon, what this is this is going to be located at the top of Excel, and it's a means of navigation. So what you'll find that all the functionality is usually grouped together on different ribbons. So you'll have a ribbon for your Home tab, which has some basic functionality, formatting, fonts, alignment, and things like that. You'll have a Formulas tab that when you click on the Formulas button, the ribbon changes to Formulas, and then it shows you all the available formulas for you. So it's a really nice way of grouping functionality together, and it makes it easy. And there's also different ways to find that, but that's the way for you to think about the ribbon. And next we have the Tell Me feature, which is kind of nice if you want to do something quick on the very top green bar of Excel towards the center right. You'll see this Tell Me function. It's almost like a help function. If you click in there and then you start typing, let's say, graphs or charts, it'll pull a short list of possible things that you might be interested, and you click on what it is that you're interested in, and it'll take you right to it. So that's a quick way to navigate around the workbook as well. And next is the Quick Access Toolbar. Before, some of this functionality, and in previous versions of Excel, all these little functions would be laid out somewhere in the pane for you to see them. This Quick Access Toolbar helps keep the view a little bit cleaner, but you can just click on the down arrow and you can see some of the things that you would usually use, like new or open, spell check, sort, and things like that. You can also click these to make sure that they show up all the time if it's something that you actually want to have show all the time. But if you don't, that's where those little quick commands actually reside. And then again, this is oops, sorry, I went too far here. This is another way to navigate with shortcuts. If you go to the Tell Me ribbon and type in shortcuts, it can give you a list of all the shortcuts that you can use within Excel. Open a spreadsheet, copy, paste, functionalities that you're probably very familiar with already, but if you forget one, again, you can go to that Tell Me section up on the green part of the ribbon and just type in something like shortcuts, and that'll give you the information. So for now, I'm actually going to go into an Excel workbook, and I will show you exactly how this works. So when you open up Excel, again here on the left, I just have this little demo Excel sheet that I picked up, and you can see that This is my most recent one. I cleared the list for today so that you can only see this. And over here you see this little pin. It says pin this item to the list. If I click that, then this worksheet will always stay here, and other worksheets will come down below it until I choose to pin them as well, and then they'll stay at the top of the sheet. To the right here, you see different types of templates that have already been created. There is a student calendar, personal monthly budget. Let's say if I click up here at the top and I type invoices, it's going to search for invoices, and then it's going to find me some examples of invoices that I might use. And I can click on one, create it, and then what it'll do is it'll actually just populate my my workbook with that template. And you can see it's got everything that this template came with, including instructions. So that's a great tool right there. But we're going to actually go to a blank worksheet. So I'm just going to open this blank worksheet. And again, up here, if you can follow my cursor, this is the ribbon. And up here is the ribbon name. So when I go to insert, I have a different set of functions. Here I can insert a chart, bar charts, pie charts, spark lines, filters, links, etc. On the page layout, this ribbon is going to have everything related to page layout. If I want to change the margins, the orientation, portrait or landscape, background, I can have grid lines, I can have no grid lines, things like that. So you'll find that in the page layout and so on. Formulas, ribbon has the formulas. So that's just a great way to figure out what's going on here. And in this tell me what you want screen, I'm going to type in that shortcuts. And as you can see, it gives me a link to get help on shortcuts. I just click that, and I can see what's going on. I click on Excel, keyboard shortcuts, and I can dive down into this. It gives me that list that we were looking at before. Copy, paste, save a spreadsheet, and so on. So there's a lot of ways to navigate on this in this application, and I just wanted to show you a few of those. So I'm going to type in just some general information here, just something to have in the workbook, and then I'm going to go to save. When you save, there's a couple options. You have this little icon here, which is a save. But if you save it, the title of your workbook is going to be located in the top center of the application. So what you're looking at now is you be saving this workbook as Book 1 and as an Excel spreadsheet. If I wanted to change the name and make it something more meaningful, I would go into File, Save As. I'd pick a location, and then I would simply enter a file name, and I'd call this, let's say, South Bay COC. Pick a location that I want to, and then save that document. When I save it, I'll probably save it here. And when I save it, you can see that the name's changed up here to South Bay COC. So that's the title of my worksheet. So now that I have that situated and it's located in the proper folder that I want to, I can continue to add information to this. And now I can use the shortcut because I've established the name already and I've established the location. So now when I hit this save, it'll just go right to where I had it before. So that's the difference between save and save as. And let's see what else. As far as file naming conventions, I would say that you want to use something. I like to use dates, something that has relevance. So I might just save this as a different thing. I might save this as South Bay CSC Excel demo, underscore with the date, and then save it like that. It's nice to use underscores instead of spaces between words if you don't want them all connected. And if you start with a lowercase and then every new word use an uppercase, that's a typical way to name your documents. But whatever you use, just use something that you'll remember it. You'll remember it by, and it's easy for other people to understand what's in that document without actually having to open it up. So that's what a little tip I would give you about that on naming conventions. And then I believe we've covered the ribbon already. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Manish.
Okay, so let me present my screen. I will become the presenter. Eddie, you can hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Excellent, and my screen is presenting, so thank you, Eddie. I'm going to take it further for some new features, and most of the features are related to now the data entry or how you can work with the cells in Excel. So the very first thing I want to cover is the fill data automatically. So as Eddie has shown, there are sheets on the Excel. When you're doing the typing in Excel, maybe you're repeatedly typing the numbers and you're doing it in multiple sheets. So there is a useful feature in Excel where it knows the pattern and it can type it for you. So it allows you to just type 1, 2, 3, and then you can drag a combination of these 3 boxes, not just one. If you just drag one, it's going to copy 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way. But if you copy 1, 2, and 3, there will be a small thick dot here, which you drag, then it will type all the numbers. And I'm going to show you right away. And what I'm going to do is show one sheet, the feature, and then switch over to demo so you can follow along together. So we just talked about, instead of typing 1, 2, 3, 4 like this and then going all the way till 100, there is a different way to handle this in Excel. What you can do is just type top 2 numbers or 3 numbers, select all of them together like this, and then this red thick box or the dot, you need to drag it like this, and then Excel will autofill for you. What I was saying is, in case you don't select multiple numbers and try to drag one, then it's just going to copy one all the way. Similarly, if you want to copy a series again and again, then you can select multiple, and actually that you have to copy like this, and then if you select all of them, then it copies duplicate. Okay, that's not working, leave it. So we just talked about the numbers. Now this also works for the month. So if I have typed Jan, Feb, and then I drag all the month column, I mean all these 2 rows, then it is gonna type all the month's name for you. Becomes really helpful. So that is the feature called autofill. Going back, there is a different way to do that also, is you can just select these and then click on this option. As you select, you get more options, because sometimes there is a formatting. So suppose if I had Jan as formatted in different color, and in case I copied these 2 down, it looks bad formatting. So you will have an option to just remove the formatting. or copy with formatting and all. So when you drag it, look for this little menu where you can find more options. Okay, so that covers this feature called autofill. Let's go to the next option, and this option is more related to the numbers. When you are doing some calculation, you want to do some numerical quick calculation, there is some quick features in Excel. For the demo, what we are going to do is go here, and I'm trying to calculate a different month earnings and expenses. And the feature what we wanted to highlight was Autosum. What you can do is, instead of calculating the sum by yourself, you just select all and click feature like Autosum. I think everybody knows this, but if you don't, then what you do is you click Autosum in the cell after all the numbers. There will be a new number, and this is actually Autosum. It shows the formula also. What if you don't want to display it on the system? Then all you can do is select all the numbers and look in the bottom right. In the bottom right, it's going to show, this is called a status bar. This bottommost bar is called a status bar. In the status bar, you see some more information like average and the total count and total sum. Now this becomes very helpful. Suppose you have 12 months, and so ideally you should have 12 columns selected, so you can see, okay, actually I have only 7 months of data. I'm missing 5 months of data. That information you can select here. And here's your sum showing up. You can also customize your status bar by right-clicking, and here are all the options. So you may want to see some more information or remove the information. You can see minimum or maximum. All that also you can add. So you can see, okay, what was the minimum expense, maximum expense. If you have a threshold within the company, all that information can be quickly found out here. So I'm just going to remove that and then go back to the next step. Next is related to more on the text. Sometimes the Excel is pretty long, and for the formatting purpose, we want to show the details in a specific way. So in this example, we are having a column which has a first name, last name, and we want another column to say Taylor Swift as a full name. Now this one becomes more like a string operation, so you need to use an operator like ampersand. And that way you can combine these two string and put it in a final column called full name. And here is the formula. You say equal to, put a parenthesis, and put the column name AD124, ampersand, put a little space, and then ampersand AE124. Let's see this example. Okay, so I have first name, last name, my first name, last name, and Windows computer first name, last name. So what I do is I say equal to, parenthesis, open, close. I like to do open, close because you don't have to forget then to close it. And then I'm going to say first name, which is A3. So how did I type here? Either I can type A3, or all I can do is move my mouse here and click Control and the column name. So the column name comes automatic. And then we're going to add ampersand and then column 2. And let's see the answer, right? So it is coming. The text is coming, but looking bad because there is no space. So then what we do is we go after the first ampersand and then add some space here, like this. And now let's try it. This is what we want. And now because the formula is here, we can just drag and drop. I mean, just copy that formula all the way, and you can see the formula copied in all the columns, and it's showing the first name, last name with a space. So that's how you combine multiple cells. Similarly here, I have an example of address, city, state, phone number, and PIN code. So in case we wanted to add all the address in one column, then similar thing I have to do, which I have typed little bit is first column and second. But what if I want to add comma here, right? So I can do that, and then I'm gonna say ampersand, this thing, ampersand, control click. That looks pretty good. Let's test it out. It has become too crammed. We need to space it out. So I'm gonna go and copy this comma or space, right? So let's do this, and let's try it out. So second street, I think looking fine, but we need another space here. So let's do that. Okay, so that looks good. So what you can do is, of course, you can do the formula for the numbers, but then formula also works for the text or the string. And now just drag it all the way, because it's going to copy the formula. Now, in case you don't want to drag, because drag is easy in this particular space, you can always copy this formula and paste it as well. But here what happens is it's taking exact formula. When you drag it, it becomes relative. So sometimes you want to copy the exact formula, and sometimes you want relative. So relative means it is talking about line number 9, but if I drag it to next, it's talking about line number 10 and 11, 12, like that. So sometimes you want to have relative, and sometimes you want to take exact formula to some other cell. So then in that case, you can just copy this and put it somewhere else, and that will give you the exact formula. Okay, so that's about the combining the cell. Let's move on to the next tip, and that is about separating out. So in Excel, sometimes you have the cell showing us certain data. Like in this example, we have the email showing up. And based on the email, I know it's a first name dot last name at companyname.com. So it becomes very easy for us to actually separate it out. And in our previous example, we see the whole address together. How would I separate out city and the zip from there? Could be one problem. So there is some feature called flash fill, where and this feature is actually available starting 2013. So if you have older Excel like 2010, then this may not work, but because 2013 has been used by many people, and also now the new version 2016 has come, so this is applicable. In Office 365, you always get the latest version, so you should have 2016 there. Okay, so let's see how this works, right? So in flash fill example, what we have is a combined data. So this first name, last name, in this example, it's a full name, and I need to separate out first name and last name. So what I have done is I have already typed first name. I'm going to type the last name here. And then I have two options. Either we can just go here and say fill call flash fill. Computer knows, or the Excel knows, based on the pattern of the line number 3, I'm going to separate out the last name for rest of it. So that is one example. Or you can actually start typing, and it actually recognizes. So let's type 2 of them. Normally it is supposed to show one shadow which will allow us to say, yes, this is what I was showing, that as I start typing computer, it's showing it like a shadow drop down on, and then you can see on the bottom here that's kind of already recognizing what I'm trying to do. So I just press enter and it has done the work. So that is a feature called flash fill. Similarly here, I'm trying to separate out the address, city, state from this combined column. So this column has everything in one cell. But because we have 1415 Street 200, I have typed it. Now all the columns are having the data from this one column, and all I can do is select this and say, sorry, let me select this and say, I think there should be option here also. We don't have it here. Okay, so flash fill. Select. Oh, actually, this is the one. Yeah. Flash fill. Flash fill. Flash fill. This is really good when you get data from somewhere and it's not in your format, so you can take the data, dump it in. As long as it's in the same pattern, you'll be able to get the column separated out very easily, because Excel will help you parse the one cell into multiple. Okay, so that was the flash fill. Transpose is an option where you have the data in the rows, but actually you want to see it in a column way. So here is example is color and number is in the column. So color is in the first column, number is in second column. But what if you really want to show color in the rows, and then in the next row you want to show the number? So there is a very simple operation option called transpose or rotate, which will do this for you. So let's see the example. I already typed this information. First column has color, second has number. I selected, and then I'm going to click here, right click actually. So select the data, right click, and there is an option to change called paste. Paste special. So select all of this. Oh, hold on. Somehow I'm unable to select. What happened here? Okay, this one I'm just gonna show it to you here. So ideally you select everything and then you are able to paste it. Let me just copy this again. So transpose, create a copy, select, then you paste it, but during the paste you get the option to rotate. So you just rotate that. So it's actually not in the original one, but during the paste you will get an option. So again, during the paste you get the option, right click, rotate. So that's how it is going to work. That was double copy. Going back to the next option, and I think that was the last one. Okay, so Brian, I'm done. Thank you, because this we already covered it during the slides. It's back to you.
Thank you, Manish. Let me take presenter, and what my section will be is relatively short. It's about formatting and printing. And what I would also like to do is to touch on something called pivot tables, which I find to be very useful, although pivot tables, I think in general are going to be more on the advanced side of Excel, but I thought for today's presentation that we can at least spend a little bit of time to look at what a pivot table might do for you. So in the formatting and printing section, it is essentially one of those ribbons that Eddie mentioned earlier. And the process basically is one where you'd end up going through the page setup and to basically set up headers and footers. And I have a certain format that I follow, which I am fairly consistent about in terms of how to present spreadsheets so that they're more useful. There's also an opportunity to kind of print just what you need, and in certain cases, sometimes you want more than just the active spreadsheet. You might want all of the spreadsheets in the workbook. So I think I have an example to show that as well. Okay, so let me switch to my demonstration, and I have an Excel spreadsheet that has some financial statements on it. So oftentimes customers will take information from the ERP application or from QuickBooks, and rather than show the financial statements using the regular system, they might transpose or transfer the information into an Excel spreadsheet. In many cases, there's a way to download the data from the ERP application into the Excel spreadsheet so that there's no need for manual data entry. So let me just go through my typical formatting methodology, just kind of show how you might do things in your spreadsheets. So there is a ribbon for page layout that he mentioned earlier, and there's one thing here called page setup. So this particular spreadsheet already has my conventions in it, so I'm just going to run through them for you. My first trick is to use this fit to option, and oftentimes I'll use a number like 100. The reason for doing this is that in situations where the data is kind of spread out across the spreadsheet, and sometimes you don't want these things to kind of cut off in alternate pages. So basically I use this to tell the system to not cut off and just show the full width of the data. In some cases where you've got too much data, this ends up being a little bit of a problem, but in situations where the data is moderate, this gives you a chance to have the thing fit on one page wide. The next part of my convention is these margins. So oftentimes I will use this horizontal margin so that the thing is centered on the page from left to right. On occasion I might use something vertical, but oftentimes it looks a little bit strange to me, so I often just stick with horizontal. The header and footer, I think, are also important. So my typical convention for the workshop is, or for the header, is to put the tab, or put the title in the first line and the tab in the second, and then oftentimes I will make this in a bolder font so that it stands out. So I typically use bold, and I use a 12-point font. What's also important in the footer is to put some information that might be helpful later. So oftentimes you might see a report, but you don't know quite where it came from. So my typical convention is to put the file name in the lower left-hand corner, the page and the page number in the center section, and then put the date in the lower right-hand corner. And then finally, in the sheet section, there's a couple things that are helpful. So in situations where the report is lengthy, that covers more than one page, helpful to have the rows repeat at the top so that the headings appear on every page, the first one and the subsequent. And then what I typically do for many things, although not all, is that I have grid lines print on the reporting. So this formatting will apply to the two sheets that I have in this workbook. So if I show you the print preview, then basically you kind of see how the header appears here, the file name lower left-hand corner, page number in the center, and then today's date in the right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner. One of the things that I also wanted to show, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, is that sometimes you want both reports. So right now it's just showing me the profit and loss statement, but perhaps you might want an output where you can show the entire workbook. So now instead of having just one page, it has page 1 and page 2, so that it has both of the income statement and the balance sheet together. One thing that people find useful is this, where there's an export function. And maybe you don't want to send the Excel spreadsheet, but you want to send a PDF instead. So this is a way to go and create a PDF of the document so that there is a way to kind of publish this in one file as opposed to multiple files. The formatting is the same. It still has the headers and the footers as we had it in the spreadsheet. And then in this case, it's got, in this case it only has one page. But if I do this one more time, I can show you the one spot that gives us the option to get both pages in here. Okay, so there's an option here. I'm sorry, it's kind of in a spot that is a little bit tough to find, but I get the entire workbook instead. And I'll replace my previous version. So now it's got the income statement and the balance sheet both in the same PDF. The other thing that I wanted to show, just kind of briefly, and this is one of those things that is a little bit advanced, and maybe we'll have another presentation kind of dedicated to this sort of thing. So I have a spreadsheet here that's a pivot table example. And every so often you end up with some data, and in this case this is sales data that pertains to or from an ERP system. And it's lots and lots of data that is pretty hard to work with without some tools. So for example, to manually work with 12,000 plus entries is a little bit daunting. But let me show you just kind of briefly where the pivot table function is, and then at some point later on you can kind of go and play with it on your own. So here is the insert ribbon that Eddie showed a little bit earlier, where there's a recommended pivot tables option. There's also the way you can do it with a regular pivot table, but oftentimes I like this better. And then what I do is using a blank pivot table here. Okay, so a pivot table is nothing more than essentially rows and columns. So let me go through a little bit of a demonstration about how this might work. So this value here will end up in the lower right-hand corner as a value. And this is basically the dollar value of sales. My typical approach is to make it comma separated so that the formatting looks pretty good. The part that's kind of interesting about this is that if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, these boxes give the ability to do some drag and drop and analyze the data quickly. So for example, if you know that there's an item code in here, you can basically look at all of the sales for each of the items in this type of format. And then if you know that you have some data that goes across time periods, say for a fiscal year, this gives you a chance to do the analysis across time as well. If you're not sure this is what you need, you can basically drag and drop and do some different things to put some different things into the rows and the columns to get some different analyses fairly quickly. So in this case, by state and by year. So that is basically the nature of pivot tables. And I guess there's also kind of the ability to go and do some graphs. So let me try a graph real quick and then see if that makes some sense here. Maybe what I'll do here is I'll go ahead and I will take out the fiscal year for right now and just make it by state. And then I'll see if I can insert, say, a pie chart. So it's a pretty fast way that once you've got the data that you need, you can go through this process and create pivot tables and create charts that go along with it. Okay, so that basically does it for my part of the demonstration. So what I'd like to do now is to go back to our presentation here briefly. And what I want to do is to go and ask you to submit your first name, last name, and then kind of mention Excel to slides@ssgnet.com. And then what we'll do is that we'll send you a copy of the PDF version of this presentation so you have the slides to refer to later on. And what I'd like to do is for a little bit of time here to maybe go through a little bit of a panel discussion And what I'll ask Eddie and Manish to do is to unmute themselves, and maybe we'll go through this process briefly and see what kinds of questions we can come up with. Also, in the chat window, there's a way for you to submit some questions. So I think that Dave knows how to use this, so he was able to put something in the chat window. So by all means, if you have some questions, go ahead and put those questions in here, and then we'll try and answer them as time permits. So one of the things that I kind of thought of as a panel discussion for Manish and Eddie, if you could maybe think of one thing in Excel that was really useful to you, what would that be? Maybe Manish, go first.
Yeah, Brian, actually, initially I was a basic user of Excel, but as I found the formulas in Excel, I found that to be very helpful, because you can have one Excel and then create formulas to derive certain information, especially the formula which works on the numbers. And we saw one example of formula on the text. So that is a thing which I think is very powerful. They say Excel is one of the most complicated software for Microsoft and very successful also, but each cell in Excel is like a program. So I really think formula, and the more you know on the formula, you can see the power of Excel.
How about Eddie?
So you asked for one, but I'm going to give you two things. I'm going to start with conditional formatting. What conditional formatting does, as you know, it basically can change the format of a cell based on the value of that cell. So let's say you're looking at a checking account and you're just giving it a quick look, and basically as a check register, you're just giving it a quick look. You may not have time to look at every line item, but you want to see line items that are $500 or more. You can set conditional formatting into the cells that it will highlight whatever color you want of any line item that's $500 or more, so it draws your attention right to the things that you specifically want to see, so you use less time. I mean, you save time not having to go through everything because it directs your attention to exactly what you want to focus on. So if you extrapolate that and think about how you can use that in different scenarios, it's really valuable. I'll also say that, and this is kind of off the deep end as far as complexity, but there's also data analysis and a problem solver add-in for Excel, and you can actually do simulations. And let's say you're a manufacturing company and you have limited resources as far as like machine hours and supplies, and you want to figure out what combination of all the products you make will yield you the most profit for this month to put a production schedule together. You can actually set that up in Excel and use the problem solver, and it'll calculate the optimal amount of production for everything you make, given your limited resources and your limited supply. And that is, if you can get to that level, that is an amazing feature and a great use of Excel.
Okay, maybe I'll follow your lead as opposed to one. Maybe I'll mention a couple. I guess you already know that I'm a big fan of pivot tables, and at one place that we used to work, I was known as the pivot table evangelist. And what I found most extraordinary was that I was able to analyze and sift through large amounts of data in very short time frames. Sometimes that was kind of useful for figuring out how to make a decision of some sort in terms of sales process, for example. And other times it's useful for looking for an error. So if there's a discrepancy between a couple of reports, oftentimes that pivot table process will give you a chance to go and find that thing pretty quickly. There is another feature or maybe group of features that Eddie showed earlier in the data ribbon. So the data ribbon kind of has a spot where you can create a table, not a pivot table, a table which is somewhat a little bit simpler, but a table basically gives you a chance to sift through data as if it were a database. And you can sort and basically select certain records in the data with very little effort, much easier than trying to analyze it visually. I think that there's a sort and subtotal types of functionality in that data ribbon as well, and those things I've also found very useful. Let me go on to one more question, which kind of goes back to the quote from John F. Kennedy about learning. So maybe Eddie, first, how did you go about learning, or rather, how would you suggest that people learn more about Excel?
To be honest, it's once you get past the basics, I think you could take a class for the basics and maybe certain other levels of intermediate or advanced, but there's no one. I mean, you could be taking classes every day on Excel and still not know everything. I think the best way to learn is when you have an issue or you have something that you're trying to do, a problem you're trying to solve. That's when you find out what you can do in Excel. So most of the times when I've learned something new about Excel is I was trying to accomplish something and I knew the application could do it. I just had to figure out how to do that. And you can YouTube it, you can use the help function within Excel, but I think we refer to this thing called the stickiness factor, and it's how much things stay with you. I think that your lessons, when you are learning for a reason, stay with you a lot longer than when you're just like learning in general. So I would say whatever problem you might have, try to solve it. Open up just a test worksheet and start playing in there. So if you make mistakes, it doesn't affect any like work-related items. But try and solve it there, and I guarantee you that the lessons that you learn by playing around will be the things that you remember the most.
How about Manish?
I would agree with Eddie on the learning by doing. So of course you want to start by some webinars like this and some book. But as you try to resolve one problem statement or one kind of challenge or whatever you are trying to do, that is the when you will learn. So that means you have to do it or you have to use it to learn more.
I have also found the same thing. If I have something specific that I need to accomplish, I have oftentimes used that as my impetus to learn about the functionality in Excel to go and get that job done. Okay, one last question, which kind of, I guess, is sort of the other extreme. So in some situations, we've kind of observed people who have used Excel kind of push Excel to its limits. So how about Manish first? So where have you seen situations where people have pushed Excel to its limits that maybe something else might have been better?
Well, we see that all the time. Most of the business have one of the master business analyst or programmer kind of person where they were small business and they grew pretty fast, so all they had was Excel instead of some system like CRM or ERP, and we have seen the whole accounting running on Excel. In fact, one of the recent example is manufacturing client running the whole ERP kind of thing, trying to do it on Excel and having many Excel, and now they are having issue that Excel is too big. So that's where we know that when you're having issue with load of Excel, then you have gone too far. And the biggest problem is not that it's slow, it's just dependent on one person, where the organization is supposed to be working together with everyone easily, it becomes a bottleneck. So that's when you have pushed the Excel too far.
How about Eddie?
Yeah, I'd agree with Manish. I think I'll take it from a different perspective. I know that a lot of small businesses will use Excel as kind of a replacement for a customer relationship management program, CRM. So you'll put all the names and addresses and emails and phone numbers in a worksheet, and you'll use that to either send out newsletters or things like that. And Excel can do that, and I've seen the lists be like thousands upon thousands of entries long, but at some point you, at least in that scenario, you're kind of getting away from what Excel does best. Again, outgrowing it in a different way. So, you know, it's the problem with Excel is that it's so robust, and you can do so many different things with it, and it's typically very easy to work with. I think you can get caught using it for things that you may be in fact hurting yourself by using it for, instead of actually, like in this case, a CRM, finding a CRM solution that would work more effectively and actually have some synergy with other applications that you use. So that would be my example.
Very good. I'll also kind of echo the same things that Manish and Eddie mentioned, that there are situations where people have pushed Excel to its limits. I guess one of the telltale indicators is that if the spreadsheets are very large, it seems like Excel seems to do pretty well up until about maybe 15 or 20 megabytes. And then once it goes past that, Excel begins to bog down. So that's one indication. If there are lots of spreadsheets scattered across the organization, another indication that maybe another tool is better. And then every so often something will pop up where the spreadsheet has an error in the formula or some error in reporting, in which case the spreadsheet, although it appears to be functional, is actually spitting out the wrong data. One of the next steps, possibly in certain situations, is to use a database tool like Access or MS SQL. And then, as Manish and Eddie pointed out, to that point, go to an ERP application or to a CRM. Okay, maybe let's call it for our discussion. And what I wanted to reiterate was go ahead and send first name, last name, and then maybe mention Excel in a piece of email to slides@ssgnet.com. What the Microsoft Community Connections program allows us to do is to raffle off software. So we have an Office 2016 available to send out as a raffle prize. So by all means, go ahead and send that email to slides@ssgnet.com, and we'll draw the raffle prize winner from the submissions. Okay, a little bit of contact information of Eddie and Manish. Any last comments?
Just thank you. I hope you learned something today, and by all means continue to get in there. I think the best way to learn this is to be very hands-on. So just open up a workbook and start typing away.
Manish.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks. And happy Excel working.
And then for me, all I have really is to thank you all for your time. Thank you, Karen, for the introduction. The Norwalk Chamber has been a good friend for us. Thank you all who have participated today, and I hope this was useful to you. And everyone, have a great day.